watched women in many parts of the world following herds of animals to scoop up steaming dung in their bare hands, placing it in woven baskets which then they hoist onto their heads and carry. That is how Marilyn Waring begins her essay called The Invisibility of Women's Work, the Economics of Local and Global Bullshit. For the purpose of my final project for communication culture and rhetoric class, I chose to make a rhetorical analysis of that essay in order to show how successful for me that rhetorical text is. I believe that that essay is a great example of feminist rhetorics because it discusses a problem facing women in Nepal and also ties them to global economy and stresses on the role modern countries have in supporting such gender oppression. In order to clearly describe why the essay is successful, I would first talk about its author, Marilyn Waring. Then I would talk about feminist rhetoric, what is it, how it emerged, and then I would explain in what three ways, meaning what are the goals of the essay, the style, and the structure, how those three components tie into the realm of feminist rhetoric, and hence why is it the essay a good example of such type of rhetoric. First, I would talk about the author. Waring was born in 1952, and she is a New Zealand activist for female human rights. She's a feminist economist with a PhD in political economy, a development consultant who has worked in more than a dozen countries, a farmer, and an activist for female human rights. Currently, she is a lecturer at Albany campus in New Zealand. Furthermore, Marilyn Waring is an author of numerous essays and lectures that discuss women's struggle in current societies. At the age of 22, Marilyn Waring became a member of the Parliament. She served as chairperson of the Public Expenditures Committee, senior government member of Foreign Affairs Committee, and she was also on the Disarmament and Arms Control Committee. At the time when she became a member of Parliament, only 15 women were in Parliament. The position as a chairperson of the Public Expenditures Committee she kept for 9 years, which gave her the chance to travel a lot in about 35 countries and thus gain immense knowledge on how the world governs its finances. After those 9 years, Marilyn Waring withdrew the support from her party because of an issue concerning nuclear-free New Zealand that triggered snap election. After her withdrawal, she returned to lecturing and focused on human rights. In 1988, Marilyn Waring published her book, If Women Counted, The New Feminist Economics, and a few years later, a movie in Canada called Who's Counting, based on that book, appeared. Dr. Waring received an honorary bachelor's in political science and also in international politics from Victoria University, and in 1989 she received her PhD in political economy. 1 year later, in 1990, she was awarded from the University of Waikato Research Council grant to continue her work on female human rights. In 1996, she published her book Three Masquerades, Essays on Equality, Work, and Human Rights, and in 1998, she published another of her very famous works, Counting for Nothing, What Men Value and What Women Are Worth. Ever since, she is pretty engaged in academic and activist events. However, Waring's recent work has focused on women's work as an issue of international human rights. She has also done activist work on behalf of women who are imprisoned or denied a refugee status because of what Waring calls feminist political issues beyond the restricted definitions and practices of international human rights. Waring is an outspoken criticizer of the concept of gross domestic product, or GDP. Um, she ridiculed the system that, I'm quoting, counts oil spills and wars and as contributor to economic growth, while child rearing and housekeeping are deemed valueless.